አደባባይ ሚዲያ ለወገንተኝነት ጀርባውን የሰጠ ጊዜያዊ ጥቅምን አምቢኝ ብሎ የዘመመን ሊያቀና እውነትና እውቀትን አስከትሎ ኢኮኖሚያዊና መንፈሳዊ መረጃዎችን እንካችሁ ይላል። ትኩስ ዜናዎች፣ ዘጋቢ ፊልሞች፣ ጥልቅ ትንታኔዎች በአደባባይ ሚዲያ ይቀርባሉ። ራእያችን ጊዜውን ያማከለና ዘመኑን የዋጀ በእውነት የነጠሩ መረጃዎችን በእውቀት ደግፎ ለሀገራችን ብሎ ለዓለም ሕዝብ ማዳረስ ነው። አድሬሳችን አደባባይ infomedia@gmail.com፣ በዌብሳይታችን www.adebabai.com። ያግኙን፣ ይርዱን። የሁላችንም ስለሆነች ኢትዮጵያ በአደባባይ እንዘግባለን። አደባባይ ሚዲያ።
አደባባይ ሚዲያ kan hunduma keenya kan taate waa'ee Itoophiyaa አደባባይ irratti ni gabaasa. አደባባይን kan hundumaati. kan hunduma keenya kan taate waa'ee Itoophiyaa አደባባይ irratti ni gabaasa. Peejii Feesbuukii አደባባይ ሚዲያፍ chaanaalii yuutuubii keenya irratti nu hordofaa. አደባባይ ሚዲያ.
Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us from around the world. This is Adebabai Media's Viewers Digest program. My name is Hewitt, and I'm here with my co-host Diakon Ephraim today. We have a very special program for you. We're going to be having a conversation with Sunday school and youth organization leaders from around the U.S. They're here to share with us their journey of establishing an English service within our church. Stay with us.
One year before the establishment of the United Nations, as the world started to wind down World War II, in 1944, Ethiopia's Sunday school movement began its seed. Arguably the first established Church of Christ in the world, the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church have always been an in-depth scholarly theological school, as we know it. But through her hymns, her order of worship, and even through her cultural proverbs and clothing style, the church teaches the Bible and her daily life. But as the world changed, especially during World War II, and church education and secular school became separate, Ethiopian youths were forced to either were forced through the system to choose between church or secular school. Gradually, as youth left church education, the need for the youth to study the Bible during the weekend became essential. In 1944, as Tamiro Mastamar Mahaber kicked off from Miskazuna Medani Church in Addis Ababa and spread across the country, a teacher and also a teacher from the Coptic church named Mark Dowd, through the help of many archbishops, including the Patriarch Abuna Theophilus, have also attributed to the flourish of the Sunday school system we see today. Once the Sunday school system movement was endorsed by the Holy Synod and became part of the church's administration body, the rest became in the history books. Today, attending Sunday school in Ethiopia is almost equal to studying in theology. The amount of in-depth education given, the everyday life of Sunday school, has mounted this movement to be mentioned as one of the golden ages of modern Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church history. Today, we will discuss where the youth ministry, this same exact youth ministry in Ethiopia, where it is today outside of Ethiopia. Today, we are honored to have Diakon Gorgorios currently serving the Department of Education for UOTY. We also have Diakon Brother Yasu, chairperson of EOTC YU TX in Houston, Texas. We also have our sister Meron Seleshi from Beza Kullu Sunday School, serving in the great state of Minnesota. Please stay with us.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us and for being our guest. We're really honored that you guys took the time to come and have this conversation with us. I'll go ahead and kick off our first set of conversation about your background a little bit and the service that you do. And if I could start with Diakon Gorgorios, could you tell us briefly how you came to be a servant of the church and leader in your organization?
Thank you, Hewat. Thank you, as well as Diakon Ephraim, for having me, as well as Adebabe for providing this wonderful program. Like she mentioned, my name is Diakon Gorgorios, and I am a servant here in Las Vegas, Nevada, Hamerano Kidana Mered, Kundus Mikhail Orthodox Tewahedo Church. I've been serving the church ever since I was a very young boy. I grew up back home in Ethiopia. Like Diakon Ephraim mentioned, Sunday school is the biggest pays the biggest attribute for our spiritual life when we are back home. It's pretty much like having a theology college. So I gained most of my knowledge when I was there, and I was ordained a deacon in Zoai Monastery by our father, Abuna Gorgorios. And I came to the United States when I was 11 years old. I've been serving with my father in Denver, Colorado. I came about UOTY when I was very young as well, like 5-6 years ago. My brother Diakon Ephraim, your co-host, is the one that contacted me about a youth group that started a year ago in St. Louis with 50 kids determined to learn the Word of God, wanting to be part of the church, wanting to know about God. So by his forceful will, I went to Minnesota and I was able to witness the English conference for the very, very first time. I was very skeptical about this organization. I was always believed to be in the Amharic section. I always thought everybody should learn in Amharic. We should follow our tradition and all that good stuff. But I was able to attend this conference in Minnesota. And now it was an eye-opening conference for me. It was truly an eye-opening conference for me. For the very first time, I was able to connect in a way I didn't connect before. I was able to indulge and love affair, I would say, with my beloved church. I was able to witness 200, 300 young people, ages 13 all the way to 26, embracing their church, embracing their faith, embracing their mizmor, the hymns, the sermons, and loving their church. And this was about in 2014, I believe. And that's when I started my journey in the organization UOTY, United Orthodox Tewahedo Youth. There, we established the committee that we have right now, the oversight committee, and I was voted to be the education team. Although I was undeserving, I was able to, by the help of my brothers and sisters, I was able to carry the burden and help evangelize the gospel with my beloved colleagues. And this is my short story.
Thank you. That's, I remember that when I first went to a UA2R conference, you guys were hosting it in Denver. And I think there was about 900 kids there, and being very, very grateful and overwhelmed with all the beauty and the hymns and the love that I saw as well. So thank you for sharing that with us. My sister Miron, could you tell us a little bit about your service and how you came to be a leader in your prospective organization as well?
Okay, my name is Miron Tedeschi. I grew up in the church. I honestly do not call myself a leader, but I was humble enough to be able to, lucky enough to be able to grow up in the church. And not only was my Sunday school the backbone of the foundation of my love for my church, for my religion, it's everything that I know about my religion and my faith was established through the Sunday school, which is Bezakulo, Minnesota. My service started when I was very young, I guess. I was singing in the choir at the age of 10. My mom is a very strong member of my church, and that's how I got involved. I love spending time with kids. I love teaching kids. I took a break in 2014. I moved to Florida just to be able to see what life is like independently. And then now I'm back in Minnesota. I just got married a year ago, so new chapters. And now I'm back to servicing within my Sunday school, and will be more involved in coming up this year. So short story.
Yeah.
Just to add on this with what Miron I wanted to mention is Miron is I grew up in Minnesota, as I tell you guys every single day. Try to remember everybody, remind everyone. And I grew up with Miron, and Miron is actually the second generation, even within in general, probably the third generation from her family, but within Bezakulu, the same Sunday school in Minnesota, she's the second generation. Her mom is still very active, not only active, but she is the chair. She is the chairwoman of Bezakulu Sunday School, I believe, right now at this moment. So I wanted to also bring Diakon Iyasu in this discussion. And I want Miron to answer this as well. From your experience, how do you recall the English service growing as you were growing? Like Miron, like I've known you since 9 or 8 years old. So when do you recall that English service growing, and how did you? Diakon Gorgorios just tapped on it a little bit. How did you see it gradually change to where it is today?
Gradually, it has evolved into something that's beyond my imagination. When I was growing up, I was trying to balance not only my church life, but also the outside life. I was trying to balance being able to stimulate into the culture of Americanism, I guess, or Western culture, and also still be able to have that connection with my church and with my faith. But it was really difficult to engage with people my own age in a language that I was beginning to, learn. So for me at that age, it was a great gap between understanding all the older generation, I guess I should say, and being able to understand Amharic, not lose Amharic, yet learn English at the same time, and being able to balance faith and religion and life in America. Since 2014, I've seen UA2I evolve into this unstoppable force, and I don't have words to express how much it was needed. We lost, I believe in my mind, we lost an entire good between the age of 26 to 35. This church has a gap right now. And I feel like since 2014, we were able to capture from 12 to 26, as Gilbert mentioned. Now we're beginning to open up a platform for them to be involved in their faith and in their religion and a language they understand, which I think was much needed at the time. And since 2014, it's been growing. So.
Thank you, Meron. And Diakon Yasu, how did you see it change gradually and booming in English service? We know that in Houston, one thing that you guys do different from other youth organizations is you were able to have both Amharic and English services together. And that's something new that I've seen Houston, which we will talk about, like the gaps between the elder Sunday school and then the youth organizations. We'll talk about that, but tell us a little bit about your where did you see it coming and blooming to where it is today?
Thank you for having me. About 5-6 years ago is when we really started, and our goal was to get the different youth from the different churches to come together and to learn about their religion and to serve God and whatnot. So we really didn't have a purpose of English or Amharic. So when we started our service, Amharic automatically came to mind, right? However, some of the younger youth, as they call themselves, or English-speaking youth, they approached us and basically said, the programs and the services you guys are providing are great. However, what are you guys doing for us? Or what is this organization doing for those of us that don't speak Amharic or that prefer service in English? And the reality is we had no intention, right? So we were kind of forced into it, where we gathered some of them and said, hey, you guys come together and tell us how we can better serve you. And that's when it started. So about 5 years ago, I would say is when we started, I guess, an English umbrella within Houston to kind of serve in English. And I remember it's around that time where I think English service has always been around at a minimum. However, about 5 years ago, it really started to boom. And you would see different cities and different states holding English conferences, and it was all over social media, and it was all in your face. So for me, and from what I remember, I would say about 5-6 years ago.
Okay. Well, thank you for telling us a little bit about your organization. Could you also tell us a little bit about how you became a servant of the church and brief history of how you got here, basically?
I came to America when I was 8 with my family. I'm not going to tell you how old I am now, but that's a long time ago, right? And after a certain amount of time, it's American Sunday school service is kind of funny, right? You're always begging somebody to join a choir or whatnot. So I guess one day at the church I was going to, there wasn't enough people to sing in the choir. So they literally pulled us and pushed us into wearing the uniform and singing the song that day. And I just remember being in the back going like this every time the cover would hit, right? So after a certain amount of time, we were fortunate enough to, have a church father come to that city that really cared about the youth. And he started a lot of programs and educating us and whatnot. So the more we got to know the church, the more we wanted to serve. So after a certain amount of time, like I said, about 6 years ago, we realized that what was happening in our city wasn't enough. Throughout the churches, there wasn't enough mimetic service for the youth. And that's why you wouldn't see any youth, regardless of the church you go to. After high school, they pretty much disappeared, right? So on top of that, there was no unity among the youth, no unity among the churches. Obviously, this was pre-tech, for lack of a better word. So we basically got together different youth from different churches and said, hey, there's a lot we need to learn about our religion. So let's get together and let's pull all the resources we have amongst one another, regardless of the church we go to. Let's come together, let's learn together, let's serve together. And in the meantime, let's have an open door policy. So as we're learning about our faith and our religion, we can invite others to come along and learn with us and grow in their faith along with us. So it's within that step that I've been fortunate enough to serve, and still serving to this day.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that with us. Along with that, I'll start with Diago Gregorius again. As you're journeying through the service and learning your church, what are some of the challenges you faced? It could be personally or as an organization, or both, that you can share with us so we can learn from.
Starting anything in itself is a very difficult is a difficult thing, and you're gonna face a lot of challenges, and that's a given. Whenever you're trying to do anything that is spiritual, you're supposed to face some type of retaliation or some type of force that is against you, or something that doesn't understand it. As far as the United Orthodox Tewahedo Youth, the moment I saw the opportunity, the moment I saw the possibility and the potential that I had in Minnesota, I wanted to bring that back to Denver, Colorado, where I used to reside. And the biggest challenge that I had bringing back a wonderful idea is that, do I have a clear vision, mission, and value for this youth organization? We had so much passion when we started. Like I mentioned, it was just 50 people that started the organization, and then the next year we had 250 people that attended the conference in Minnesota. So it was a huge growth. And then there's a lot of people are paying attention to it, and nobody knows where it's going. A lot of people have this passion for it, but we didn't have a clear vision and mission and value to go along with it, to kind of explain to the youth what it is, so that they can follow us. And that's something that you got to have in order to have a lot of people be on board with what you have in mind. Nobody's just going to get up and follow you. So having a clear vision and mission and value was essential. And by the help of Diakon Ephraim and the people that were in the oversight committee, we were able to structure and construct a valuable bylaw that was very clear as to what we wanted. We wanted to be this network. We wanted to be the go-to. Wanted to be the resource for Ethiopian and non-Ethiopian descent, to be a network and organize conferences and bring back the youth. Not only help the youth that are in the church stay within the church, but bring back the generation that we had lost. And not only that, evangelize the gospel to the rest of the world, to the rest of the states, bring in foreigners. Everybody deserves to hear the word of the gospel. So having a clear vision as to what we wanted the organization to be was the very first challenge. Being on the same page was a very challenging thing. The second challenging thing that we faced was from the church, which was a very good question. Who are you? Like, who are you? You're here, you brought this a good idea. You say you want to teach the kids, but who are you? And why are you doing this? That is a question of acknowledgement. And this is something that we didn't understand. And we thought everybody was against us. We thought the clergy was against us. We thought the church was against us. We are so sad. And some of us were heartbroken by this, because we were so passionate to get started, to start learning the word of God in English, and come back to the church. But we didn't know there was a way to go about it. There is a formality to the church. There is a structure to go about it. And that's what we learned in that moment. It was a huge challenge, helping understand the clergy as well as the parents, who you were and what we intended to do. What acknowledgements do you have? And I think in Amharic, we call it Aukanna Lachuway. And that's the very first thing that an organization is asked. And as we took that challenge, we were able to reach out to Abuna Zacharias. We were able to get his blessing, as well as we were able to reach out to Abuna Fanuel, who is the Archbishop of the Archdiocese of DC and its surroundings. He gave us our blessing. Not only that, but he gave us an acknowledgement as well. So from that point on, we knew that everything needed to be done formally. Not only the clergy need to know that, the parents need to know that, the bishops, the diocese need to know that. You can't just move around and do whatever you want just because you have good intentions. So that was the biggest challenge that we faced, making sure everything that we do is formal. And the third challenging thing that we had was convincing the parents as well as the clergy why the English language. So this was a huge thing. It was a huge battle that we had to face. A lot of people came up to us. Our kids are growing within the Sunday school. They sing mazmurs every Sunday. They're doing pretty well. What difference do you make? What can you do what the Sunday school is not doing already? What do you have to offer that the Sunday school is not offering? And we had to explain, here is where the vision and the mission came in handy. So we had to explain, we're not just here to help the kids that are within the church. They are in good hands, obviously, and it's a great thing. But the challenge comes after they leave the church. Once they're exposed to the world, that's where they're going to face a lot of challenges. That's where they're going to face a lot of trials. That's where they're going to face a lot of people trying to stray them away from the church. So we had to make sure to explain to them We're here to keep those who are in the church within the church, who have left the church not to be seen again, to bring them back, to be the bridge for those people that had left the church. And not only that, but to bring a new congregation. And not only that, to work with sister churches. We're not just the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. There is 5, 6 Oriental churches all around us, and we need to start working together. The world that we are in right now is a very difficult world that we're living in. As the world against God. If we're not united, working together to bring back our youth, to keep our congregation intact, we're going to be in a lot of trouble. The world is working tirelessly to stray us away into a secular world, a secular living. If we're not going to be united together, to work together, to learn the gospel together, and worship together and praise together, we're going to be in a big trouble. So one of the biggest challenges, the third biggest challenges that I faced and the organization faced is that why the English language? So we have to explain to them, this is the common tongue for people living in America. It's not just the Ethiopian Orthodox Church is not just made up of Ethiopian descent congregation, but a congregation that is filled with people who are born here, people who are born in Ethiopia but were raised here and can only speak English. And there's a lot of us who hear Amharic but understand English a lot better. A lot of people are kind of like they go through this. I don't know about you, but for a lot of us who grew up in Ethiopia, whenever we hear English, whenever we're having a conversation with white folks, with Americans, we hear English, but we have to translate that to Amharic to comprehend what they are saying. So whenever there are kids who grew up in America, whenever we speak to them in Amharic, it takes them a long time to process this. So the moment they're being preached out on Amharic, it takes them a very long time to translate what they heard and comprehend. Imagine if we're throwing the mystery of incarnation at them in Amharic. How are they going to comprehend this mystery? They're not going to understand the theology of the church and Amharic, but whenever they hear it in English, they're able to grasp it very easily. So this challenge, helping them understand this, was very difficult, but we were able to get through that. So these are the difficult things that we faced when we started this organization.
Yeah, thank you, Dagon Ephraim. Since you're also part of this movement, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, he beautifully said it, and actually took also the follow-up question that I had. You hit it right well. You said the world is against us already, so why be against one another? And you've answered everything very well. Which I wanted to add another layer problem, which is the same thing with language, but this is a legitimate question that most of our fathers. You answered very well to those that ask questions without the misunderstanding, all of that. But this one are actually legitimate fathers that have concern that if we only focus on the English language, what about the Giz, and how will you answer the concern of the fathers and the mothers and the teachers and those that want the church to flourish? How do you address the language problem where, as you know, one of the reasons that we have the millions of denominations, one of the reasons, not the whole, but it's due to language.
Yeah.
Heretical people will always use language to be able to spread their false teaching. So how do you address those concerns where if it's only going to be English, are we trying to, these youth organizations around the states, is it trying to completely take over Giz? If yes, how? Or if you're not and you want to keep that tradition of Giz, and if you think that it's important, what have you been doing to address that?
Very valid question, and it's a concern of many. It's one thing that we had to come together as well as Daquan Ephraim is always was there with us as well. This is a discussion that we had within amongst ourselves as well. This is not something that we want to get rid of. Because language, obviously, it's believed to be the language of Adam in himself. Giz became very popularized in the 4th century with our very first bishop, the Syrian Fremnat, also our Abuna Salama Kasati Bran, who he's the one that kind of promoted the language Giz from Shiban to Giz. We translated a lot of the scriptures from from the Hebrew language, from the Hebraic language into Giz. That's when we started. And then after, in the 5th and 6th century, it became the national language. It's not something that we want to, get rid of. But even after that, a lot of the demographic change and a lot of languages came in, and then we have a country that speaks over 81 languages. As we all know, language is a gift from God for us to communicate. It's a means for us to communicate with one another. And that's what God intended it to be. There is a reason why during Parakletos, God revealed 72 languages to the apostles, because he wanted them to go all around the world to evangelize the gospel. Well, what he had preached the preaching, or the message of redemption, salvation to the rest of the world. Everybody needed to hear this wonderful message. That's why in Matthew 24:25, he says this gospel will be preached to everybody all around the world. And that's what we want as well. But Ge'ez is a language of our church, and it's been the language of our church for a very long time. But imagine this. This is something, a scenario that I give to a lot of people when they ask, why the English language is it trying to take over? Why is that important one? They're learning and Amharic and all these things. A lot of people want them to learn in Amharic, but Amharic is not the language of the church. The reason why we have Amharic within the churches, the reason why we have our Ge'ez liturgy, our mezmors translated in Amharic, is so that the church was widely speaking now Amharic, a different language. And now there was a huge gap that was created between the church and the congregation. Because of a language barrier. Because of that, the church understood this problem, and then they were able to translate a lot of our scripture into Amharic so that the congregation, the people of the church can engage within the church. They can remain within the church. They can understand the gospel. They can understand the salvation. They can understand what they believe, what they are worshiping. And that's exactly what needs to happen here. There's a lot of people who don't speak anything but English. And there's a lot of people, foreigners, who come into the church who don't speak anything. So this is a problem that the apostles also had. I don't know if you remember in the beginning when they started evangelizing in the year 49. The reason why they have the Council of Jerusalem is because a lot of the congregation was Gentiles. And then there was part of the Apostolic Union that thought everybody needed to convert into Jewish traditions before they convert into Christianity. It was St. Paul and his peers who said, no, the gospel needs to be evangelized to everybody. They don't need to convert. They don't need to go all around to understand the message of salvation. We can't expect the American born here to learn Amharic, to learn Ge'ez, and then understand their salvation. By the time we even try this, we lose a lot of people. So that shouldn't be the case. But now, when we started this English conferences, when we started preaching in English, when we help them understand who they're worshiping and why they're worshiping and why we do the things that we do within the church, especially the sacraments, coming into the church with our shoes off, with our net on, covering our hair, why we need to take communion. All these things were questions to a lot of people. They didn't understand why we do it and the way that we were doing it. But we started explaining to them in a way they understood, and they loved it. And then they started coming back to the church. This is something that we've seen happen over and over. We've seen the congregation and the young people coming to the church and serving the church a lot more after it was preached to them in a way they understood. Now they come into the church, they understand why they do the things that they do. They love the traditions of the church. Now they have the interest to learn Ge'ez, Ene, Zema, Agwagwam. We have so many kids expressing interest in learning Ge'ez and learning and Kane and learning Zema and learning Agwagwam. I don't know.
Which is, by the way, you moved to Las Vegas. I'm sorry to cut you, not to cut you off, but you're doing Kane right now, right? With
I wasn't gonna, but yes, this is something that I'm really interested in. Like I mentioned, the more I got to know my church, the more I started serving, the more I fell in love with it. And then the more I realized what the church had to offer. I wanted to be just like my fathers. I wanted to be just as the scholars of the church. And this is exactly what's happening right now. This beautiful church just makes you fall in love with it. You just have to get to know that. It was just a means of communication. For any relationship to work, you need communication. When there's a great communication, then there is, the bond grows, and then there is a certain love within it. And that's what's happening with the youth right now. And we're growing exponentially, and there's a lot of people with interest coming to the church wanting to learn. I believe Lika Takle is the one that's teaching a lot of young people Akwakwam, and I was just mind blown. I walked into the class for just a day, and then the amount of people that attend, 30-40 kids, the way they sing the Mahalit is incredible. They're born in America. And I just couldn't believe it. These are the people that attend our conferences. And then it goes to show that just because we are teaching in English, it doesn't take away the love that we have for the mother language Giz. In fact, it's just growing it in a way that we haven't seen in a very long time. And that's why this service is really important.
Yeah, and you said it very well. And one thing just to add on, we tend to forget that even like first of all, the church's main language, service language is Giz, not Amharic or any other. And plus, even with the language of Amharic, services in Amharic is recently started about 60, 70 years ago. Before that, it was full service in Giz, and before Sunday school movement, it was through Giz that the church educated and informed their believers. It was 100% through Giz. All of our books are in Giz. In fact, there are a lot of important books that have not been translated yet to be translated in Amharic. So still, the church breathes in Giz. So if 60 years ago our fathers thought that, hey, we must start to teach in different various languages because the first of all, the demographic is changing and people are not understanding Giz as their first language as it used to be. If they were able to do that 60 years ago, there shouldn't be any questions on teaching in English now. Plus, we must also understand that the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church is not only for the Ethiopian born. It's also, like you said, for white Americans, black, Asian Americans, not just basically Americans, but it's for the whole world. So the church, just like we're going to mention this actually during the 1 month prayer that you were actually honored to be part of with 20 plus different sermon services that happen in Ethiopia. The church to all languages of the world. Basically, it's not one language only, but Giz is essential because the birth of the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church, or the way the gospel has been written and the history of the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church is part of Giz. So we can never stray away from that identity, even if we want to. So very well answered. To bring that back to language now, to talk a little bit about culture, which is something that we also forget. A lot of times, English services.
I can jump in real quick, Diakon Ephraim. Also, actually want to hear from Diakon Yasu and Meron as far as their challenges that they've faced in their organization and as Sunday school teachers as well. So if Diakon Yasu could start, tell us a little bit about that as well.
Thank you, Huat. Everything they said is right on point. As far as English service is concerned, we get the same questions, right? And not only are people concerned about losing Giz, but they're concerned about Amharic and Tigrinya or Orominya or whatever. And their biggest concern is if you continue to teach the kids in English, aren't they going to shy away from, the Amharic or, the other languages? And, it's a legitimate concern. Among the many contributions the church has made to Ethiopia is pretty much serving as the Ministry of Education for a while, right? Even though we didn't pass through it, our fathers and our grandparents, they learned how to read, right? They went to church to learn how to read, to learn how to write and whatnot. So there are a lot of contributions the church has made, and it's a legitimate concern. However, what I always tell people is, whether you like it or not, religion is bigger than language. And for some of us, that's a hard pill to swallow, right? That's a really tough pill to swallow, especially if you, love your country and love your language and zaraf, Ethiopian, all that good stuff. That's great. However, whether we like it or not, religion is bigger than language. And the goal of the church is to preach Christ. The goal of the church is to connect people with God. So if you're connecting people with God, then you got to tell people about God. And so when you're telling people about God, you have to tell them about God in whatever language that they speak. So in Ethiopia, it could be Amharic, Tigrinya, Orominya, whatever you feel comfortable with. In America, it's English.
Yes.
So if what people speak is English, if that's the language that they feel comfortable with, then the church has to tell these youth or these people about God in English. that is it, right? Diakon Gorgorios mentioned a good example, Acts chapter 2. When the 120 family of Christ received the Holy Spirit, one of the gifts they received was the ability to speak in different languages. Why? Because they had to go tell people about God in different languages. It's that simple.
Yes.
Right? So the apostles were able to speak in all the languages of the world, so they can go tell they can tell different people about God in whatever language they speak. So when we come to America, that's all we're trying to do. And as you teach people, as there's plenty of examples in every city you can quote, right? As people get to learn about their church, as people learn about God, where do they go to practice their faith? To church. So when they go to church, Manalek Kadase isn't what? Good. There's Mazmur, there's Kabaro, there's Kene, Akwakwan, Zema, or whatever you call it, right? So as they learn about God and they go to church to practice their faith, they want to learn all of these different things. And that's exactly what you're seeing. Two of the guests here, Ephraim, Gorgorio, there's Dakwadawi, people who've even went back home, all right, back home to Gadam to learn about the teachings of their faith. So learning their faith in English did not deter them from church services or the goods. In fact, it made them more curious. It made them want to learn more. It made them want to serve more. And as people learn more and serve more, they want to learn more. And part of that is the goods. So I don't think people have anything to worry about.
Yeah, I love that answer. We're not here, first and foremost, right? The job of the church is to teach religion and faith and who God is, and doing that in the language that we understand is essential for all of that. Myron, do you have anything to add to this, or do you have any challenges when you start teaching Sunday school in your church that you want to share with us?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yes, you took it right out of my mouth. That is, I think people misunderstand that the primary goal of the church is spirituality. It's the relationship with God. And parents think because of their relationship with the church when they grew up and how they learned the language by going to Ethiopian or things like that, the primary resource or the primary purpose they bring their kids to church is to
Yeah.
but that's not the goal. Amaringa Mastaman, I'm sorry, I'm gonna do both. Teaching them in Amharic does not get them closer to the church or to their religion, or it does not establish any type of foundation for the church or for their religion that they need in order to survive the hardship of this society and to be able to stand strong as an Orthodox children in America. So he said it perfectly.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when we start talking about the different challenges that we are facing, definitely language is one of the bigger issues that we have to continue to address, right? That comes from a good place. There is a sense of, especially parents being here as immigrants and understanding that their kids are growing up in a language that they may not necessarily understand, and their fear of them losing that idea of Ethiopianness, that idea of unity and love that the parents have learned to love and appreciate, right? For them to be able to transmute that through the church is something that they would really, really like. But not necessarily saying that's not something that we want to do as a church, but first and foremost, we want to teach religion. We want to teach who God is. And then, of course, the church is also a gatekeeper of the cultures and traditions of our Ethiopia, right? In that sense of even keeping it alive when it was said to be dead right now. So there's that trade-off that we're going to do. But first and foremost, let's make sure that these kids are learning the word of God in a language that they understand. And once that is taken care of, as I'm hearing all of you say, we'll go ahead and they themselves will go ahead and expand their knowledge of the different languages and the history and the traditions and the cultures of Ethiopia and, the greater Orthodox culture in the world that we do have. And I know Diakon Ephraim was starting a question about culture as well. And is that, do you want to pick that up as well, Diakon?
No, I think we should move on. With Diagon Yasu, you answered it very well. Maybe if you want to add on, other than language, the problem we are facing, or some of the questions, or some of the misunderstanding that we face is a lot of people think that we're doing this only for those that does not speak Amharic, right? They only associate it with language only. We're doing what we're doing because they only speak English. Is that so, or is there also a huge cultural gap? Meaning, cultural that are good, by the way. Sometimes good cultures that are only within Ethiopia never might not work here in the United States, right? We don't. I don't want to answer the question myself, but you understand what I mean with American culture and Ethiopian culture, and then now we have those that are wanting to come to the Orthodox Church, but they don't relate to the culture that they see. So, talk a little bit about that in terms of that. With your challenge, like teaching your youth and also you growing up, is what we're doing only for language or culture as well?
I think it's pretty much obvious, right? There's definitely a cultural gap, which is the main reason why there's a lot of miscommunication or lack of understanding between clergy and youth, or youth and parents and whatnot. That's why, we can't seem to understand the Nagashi, right? there's a lot of issues, but I think the solution ultimately is, Biswabana Gorgorios, if I'm not mistaken, and don't quote me 100%, but used to say something to the nature of land ትውልድ ሐዋርያ ከራሱ ሲወጣ የበለጠ የቤተ ክርስቲያንን አገልግሎት ቀልጣፋ ያደርጋል. Right? Don't ask me to say it in English. Gorgorios, if you guys can, take a stab at it. But really, I think that's the solution, right? To continuously expect priests and deacons from back home to come to America and minister to youth who pretty much grown up in a different world. I can say it, a completely different world is Yawahan. It's not going to work. So the solution is what we're seeing now, which is to train some of these youth, the best out of the youth, the strongest amongst the youth, and to make them Sunday school servants, to teach them and to train them and make them Sunday school teachers, to teach them and make them deacons, to teach them and train them to be priests. Then these people that have grown up in America understand the culture, understand the struggle, understand what it's like to go to elementary school, middle school, high school, college. They know the struggle and the culture and whatnot. They can better minister to their people, and there'd be more of a connection, and it would be a lot easier for clergy or the church in general to minister to people. But if it's the same people teaching, the same people preaching, the same people from back home, you will always continue to have this issue that you're having now. That's why when you look at English services being successful, because a lot of it is by actual youth. So people are learning from deacons and priests that are that grew up in America, that understand the struggle and the cultural differences or whatnot. So guess what? It's making a difference. It's making it easier. Whereas in some instances, and generally speaking, I mean, let's not be fair, right? Some people, there are some priests and deacons out there, even from back home, that just generally can get better with the youth, or that have these connections, amazing connections with the youth. Unfortunately, it's not for everybody. That's why we see a lot of clergy and Sunday school servants struggle. But if you're taking people from here, training them to serve, then you can ultimately bridge the gap.
If I may, if I can just jump in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Diakon Iyasu mentioned, give us a great insight as to it's not just a language barrier, but there's a lot of cultural differences that we have within the Orthodox Tewahedo Church. There is 4 types of demographic when it comes to the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church. So there are the people that were born and raised in Ethiopia, and then they came here. And then that's about, I think, estimately, because we have around 600 to 700,000 migrants from Ethiopia. So I would guess around 300,000 of them are Orthodox Tewahedo members. And then we have people who are born in Ethiopia but who are raised here. That's the second type of demographic in our church, and that's part of the 300,000 that we have. And then we have a generation that are born here and raised here, and there's about from 175,000 to 255,000 Ethiopians here in America, and out of them, maybe 40 to 50% of them are Orthodox Tewahedo Christians, and then we have foreigners, four different congregations. And then when we see this, and then there was a study that was done all around universities and high schools, and that showed 2 in 10 Americans, including us, do not attend the church or do not believe in God anymore. That is 35% of, and 35% of us are to be atheists. And that's a huge number when you start thinking about it. So it's not just a language barrier. Now we're losing them to a different culture, a different tradition, a different way of thinking. So we're in a very difficult thing. It's not just the language challenge that we have right now. So we have a world that is preaching there is no God. So how do we battle against that? There's a world preaching different things. So how do you balance that? So that was one of the most difficult things that I think that we're facing. Yes, there's a cultural difference between us and our fathers, and we need to start accepting that we are Ethiopian Americans, and we have to attend to different cultures. We hear when we go to school, we have to be Americans. When we come to church, we have to be Ethiopians. So a lot of people are conflicted. So identity crisis is happening all around the United States. So kids don't know what to be. They don't know whether they're American, whether they're Ethiopian, whether they're Orthodox. They don't know if they should believe what they're learning in schools. And because we are saying, ignore that part of you, ignore that part that you have to live every single day with other people and just embrace your Ethiopianism. So that becomes really, really difficult. So we have to start accepting that these kids are growing up in America, have 2 different identities, and we start embracing not 2 cultures or 2 traditions that they have, then it becomes a better thing. 2, a huge challenge that I see right now, our beautiful churches do a wonderful job. We have kids serving every Sunday. We have Sunday schools teaching Amharic. We have, deacons, newly ordained deacons in America. All these things are wonderful. But this Generation Z and generation millennials, we have this urge to be part of everything. We need to be included in everything. We need to be heard. We demand to be part of whatever it is that we expect to be in. And this is not happening within the Orthodox Church. So we need to start being part of the lifestyle of the church, the structure of the church. So it needs to go beyond, singing songs every Sunday. It needs to go beyond passing Sabbath. It needs to go beyond masalaming the gospel. We need to be part of the structure and administration of the church. This church needs to belong to us. We don't feel that. So whenever there is administration gaps, the way the church fills it is by the people that are in the older generation. We, as millennials, those who were born, post 85, are not included in this aspect of the church. So this creates a huge gap. I don't feel like I belong within the church because you're just simply telling me what to do. And then we have a generation that wants to be included in everything, and we're not including them in these things. We need to start making them part of the administration. So making sure they're involved rather than they're just bystanders and guests. They need to feel like this is their home. That's what Beit HaChristian is, and that's what we preach all the time. Beit HaChristian means house of Christians. And most of the young people don't feel like this is their home because we're not participating in the things that we need to participate in. So this could also bridge a huge gap between the millennials, the Generation Z, the new ones, and the generation before us. And lastly, we need to start talking about controversial issues. This is one thing this generation demands and hasn't gotten from us, and we have huge responsibility to answer for this generation. People want to know, to know about, they're concerned about careers, education, relationships, marriage, sex, finance, children, purpose, sexuality, abortion. All these things are not talked about within our church. There's a lot of questions that we need to ask. Social injustice, for example, a lot of our churches are not involved in. And this is something that we need to start becoming more proactive about. Being, active in the social justice, answering the questions regarding abortion, sexuality, and all these things are huge questions that we yet to tackle. And they are creating gaps. We're looked upon as an institution that hates people, and that shouldn't be the case. There is a lot of people misinforming Christianity in colleges. We know when we attend colleges, when we walk around campuses, there's a lot of people who stand on a stool preaching Jesus hates you because you are this. Jesus hates you because you are this. And now this is the image that we have of Christianity, but that's not true. We have no hatred within our hearts, but we have no means to express what we are to the world, to our generation. Now we have a generation confused, creating huge gaps. Whenever the people call them, you're Christians, your church says this, your church says that, and these kids cannot defend it. Having standpoints in these manners as well helps, bridge the gap. So it's not just the language problems that we're trying to bridge, but it's also the cultural differences, the administrative, making sure that they feel welcome within the church, making sure that they feel like this is their home, and honestly answering the questions and concerns that they have so that they can feel more connected with the church.
Yeah. When you're thinking about that, I was thinking about my experience of being in our church, and for me, my story is a bit different from all of you. That I moved here when I was about 13, and by the time I started going to church again, I was 25, 26. So all of my teens and half of my 20s, I was never in the church. So I just never really learned what the culture was, or the bits of the way we talk and such within our church. So when I first started going to the church consistently, I had a nose ring, and it was really fascinating to me on how many people were offended by it, and they were offended by it, and they were very blatantly telling me like I need to get out, and they would just keep on poking my nose. Or like I would wear netala that was a bit shorter than what it's supposed to be, and they would just like pull my netala down, and it was just really confusing to me as far as like, why won't you tell me what I'm doing wrong, as opposed to just like teaching me, as opposed to just telling me what I need to do and don't need to do. And there's that cultural gap that I felt, and it just felt very isolating, and that I didn't belong in the church, right? I'm always trying to appease people. I'm always trying to make sure that I'm not doing the wrong thing. I'm not saying the wrong things. And there's also that sense of like, there's a clique that I never really understood. There are these conversations that they have that I can never be part of. And there's that sense of also knowing that like there's that gap of people that don't come to church within my age group that the church has missed. So it was really interesting for me to navigate through that. And thankfully I had family that was willing to talk through that with me, and knowing that now looking back, if I didn't have that, right, I would have never stayed in the church. And even now within the church, when we're talking about leadership and administration work, I always feel like I'm challenging it instead of being part of it, because there are things that I don't necessarily understand the way they're done, and not being able to fully understand that conversation of when people keep on saying we within the church, never really feeling like that part of the we, because I do have that American culture that I lived in. I do have that, the college experience and going to high school here and all that stuff, that my identity is not fully Ethiopian. I do have that American sense, and that combination of identity always felt like I had to negotiate more into the Ethiopian side to be able to be accepted. And following with that, I wanted to ask you guys, do you think when we're talking about traditions and language and administration and being included within the church, is it time for our church to start recognizing holidays that we celebrate here, such as, the New Year, Memorial Day, or Independence Day, and, those kind of events? Is that time for us to start including in, or are we rushing things? If Meron could start this for me.
I just wanted to touch base on the last topic just a little bit. What I would like to say is there's always a generational gap. I mean, if our parents could just take a look and try to remember what their relationship was with their parents, they will definitely remember the generation gap that existed. But with all parents in the United States or anywhere around the world, what I would encourage is, just like Diakon Gregoria said, this generation is different. We ask a lot of questions. We want to know everything. We need an answer. Talk to your kids. Talk to your kids openly. The only way we're going to be able to close the generation gap, the church is not going to be able to do that. This is a family discussion. This is the relationship your child has with you as a parent. Parent needs to understand your child is only at church for about 5-6 hours on one day out of the week. The best thing that my mom did for me is inside the house, we spoke only Amharic. 7 days out of the week, as long as we were in the house, we spoke Amharic. That allowed me to keep my language. The church helped me keep my religion, and then the culture or the community that was there helped me build my community as an Ethiopian. For me, I don't really remember Ethiopia because I was too little. So when I was here, my Ethiopia is designed within the community within the Minnesota community. So that is because of everything that I just said that played a role into it. So for parents, if we want to be able to have a communication and be able to close that gap with your children, you need to be able to talk. This is very, very different. Of course, it's challenging for them. And as this generation, we need to be able to understand that because that's not the way they grew up. They were not able to ask this question. This platform did not exist for our parents. Our parents were not allowed to have this kind of conversations about religion, about anything, about identity. They weren't able to ask these questions. You just learned it as you went through the society. So yes, we need to have a little bit of an understanding, as well as parents need to start being able to be open and have that open dialogue with your children so that you're not losing them. At the end of the day, you have the deepest, closest connection with your kids. The church can teach the religion aspect, but the culture, the religion, everything, or the culture and the language needs to come from the house. And parents just have an open conversation, open relationship with your kids is what I wanted to say.
Let me repeat my question for you. So in the spirit of, especially with using English, for example, to bridge both the language and the cultural aspect of it, do you think it's time for us to also think about bridging the traditional aspect of it as well? Meaning that, is it time for us to maybe start celebrating the new year here, right, January 1st, or Independence Day or Memorial Day, because that is part of who we are. That is part of the identity of the Ethiopian Americans that were raised here and were born here.
Okay. I want to say yes. I want to say it's time. Let's go, because I've been here for 20 years. So for me, it's about time, right? For them, for our parents, I believe it's much harder than for us to say yes, because for them, it's still foreign. They're still worried about, I'm going to lose you. They're worried that they're going to lose you. So from their perspective, I feel like that's letting go of something else that they have no control over, that the first question is going to be, where is it going to stop? So are we going to do Halloween? Are we going to do St. Patrick's Day? Like, which ones do we accept and which one do we deny? I want to be able to say yes, but I'm not sure if we're quite ready yet. I want to say maybe in the next 3 years, 5 years. But I would say let's have an open conversation about it, and we will get there. Whether we like it or not, that's the direction that we're going.
Diakon Iyasu, I don't know if he's still on the screen, but in that topic, my church actually last year we had a New Year celebration. We did the reading of the gospel. We did candle lighting, sermons, mezmor, and we did some Q&As and some challenges. We had gifts for the kids, and we said Happy New Year to each other and then at midnight, and they loved it, and they were just really excited about what's gonna, how they want to do it next year and take ownership of it. So I think we're definitely ready. But Diakon Iyasu, what do you think?
I think with us living in America to act, and I'm going to say act, right? Because we're definitely a part of American culture, and we're here and we're off for July 4th. Schools are closed. We're off for New Year's. So whether we like it or not, and to a certain sense, we are celebrating it, right? Whether people want to admit it or not. Now, as far as the church specifically celebrating it, I'm not sure, right? Maybe that's something the church scholars need to look at. However, like you said, if people are off from school and off from work, then the church should definitely utilize this time and this opportunity to provide some type of services for her children, right? because people are off. So instead of leaving people to go out there and do whatever American culture is doing at the time, give them a reason to come to church. Everybody's off. And to create some type of event, make some type of event that the church members can participate in, especially with a lot of like Western festivals and holidays started off as religious holidays, and then somewhere down the line, kind of lost their religion and went more of earthly things. So maybe that's contribution the church can make is bring back the religion of some of these holidays. So the church can do that. That can be one contribution we can make, but it requires being organized. It requires effort. It requires plan. We have the people, we have the time, we have the energy, we have the resources. We would just actually have to get together and actually do it. So I think it's possible. How, I'm not sure, but we can definitely utilize that time for positive purposes.
Yeah, I like that. Diakon Gregorius, what do you think about this as well? I wanted to hear from you and from Diakon Ephraim as well, actually. Oh, we can't hear you.
Diakon Gregorius, your mic. Or maybe did you?
Yes, we can hear you. Diakon Ephraim, if you could start and then.
I think you're back now.
We can hear it? Can you hear
Yeah. Go ahead.
My apologies. I don't have a lot of things to add on this matter, to be honest. I think Diakon Yasu as well as my sister Miron elaborated a lot more on it. I think as long as we recognize that as a holiday, to say happy holidays, happy 4th of July, and now we have social media based churches, and we connect and engage on social media platforms. Give us a post, a shout out here and there. I think we'll be fine with that. We don't necessarily have to celebrate it and all that stuff, because as far as the biggest thing that Americans celebrate is Christmas. And we don't need to celebrate Christmas. Christmas is already January 7th, so we're looking forward to that one. So I think as long as we got that, the shout out on Facebook, we're good.
I like that. Thank
you, Diakon Gregorius, and everybody. We're going to take not a short break, but first we're gonna show you a Mazmur. But before that, we would like to remind all of our viewers that we are doing this conversation, so we could all be part of this conversation. So please keep commenting, keep being part of the conversation, share this conversation, and subscribe to Viewers Digest at Tewahedo Media. Thank you for all of you that have been joining us. We are at the top of the hour. We will continue after this Mazmur. Thank you. Go ahead.
That was a song from UATY's choir, Nation of the cross if you guys want to go ahead and buy and support them. And you could also find them on YouTube as well. It's one of the very few English albums we do have. And I want to continue this conversation to Meron, if you can answer this question for me. And then the rest of you could chip in as well. Is there any collaborations that you've been able to do with other organizations or with our sister churches within the United States?
Personally, that I know of, unfortunately not in Minnesota. Surprisingly, when I was in Florida, there was a little bit of collaboration with the Coptic church there, and I was able to visit their church. They were able to come. We celebrated Mezcal together, Tumka together. I found that they had more connection and they were able to develop a relationship in a smaller state rather than in a big state. And I feel like we need to do more. I feel like we kind of isolate ourselves away from the other sister churches, and I wish to do more connections in that aspect, but nothing that I can speak of right now.
Diakon Yasu, do you have this experience that you can share with us?
We don't really have a lot of experience working with sister churches. It's definitely the goal. It's definitely something that should happen, especially with the Coptics. I think there's a lot of resources we can utilize and learn from them. As far as other youth organizations in Houston, once a year we get together with the youth in Dallas and Austin. And we hold what we call, I guess, like a Texas conference, which is a huge English conference. And we collaborate together and work on that. Especially the youth in Dallas, they're very strong. There's a huge Ethiopian population in Dallas, and the youth over there are very strong. A lot of people might know their, social media pages. They post a lot of educational information, a lot of good resources that people should probably follow and learn from. But yes, we once a year we get together and we hold a Texas English conference. We host it in different cities at different times. Sometimes it's in Dallas, sometimes it's in Houston. We plan to get it to Austin in the future. The good thing about it is by working with other youth, there's a lot of resources you can put together. There's a lot of things you can learn from one another. Some of our strengths might be their weaknesses, and some of their weaknesses might be our strength and whatnot. So we help each other. The bad thing is it becomes like a huge conference. It could be like a lot of people that attend these conferences, which is a blessing. We're not complaining, especially Dallas. They bring in a lot of people. However, for a city like us to host something like that, there's a lot of things we have to focus on, like where are people gonna stay, what are people gonna eat, where are people gonna sleep, and whatnot. And being a small group, sometimes when you're focusing on those type of things, you have less time to focus on the actual conference and making sure that's adequate and you can present the information in a way that's engaging for people, right? So it's definitely a blessing, and it's definitely something we want to continue to do in the future.
Yeah, I've seen that collaboration. You guys do such a good job of advertising it and sharing it with us on Instagram. So that we've been part of it, even though we were far away from where the conference is hosted. Diakon Gorgorios, what has been your experience in this aspect? We can't hear if you're talking. I'm not sure if he can hear us. Okay. I guess until he comes back or we could hear him, we could jump to the next question that we do have for you guys. I'm more so like asking you for advice on what advice do you have to other youth organizations around the state that are want to organize like you. And if Diakon Gorgorios is back, if you can answer that question for us.
Diakon Gorgorios, can you hear us?
I don't think you can hear us.
You're muted, I think. We can't hear you.
Okay. So let's jump to Diakon Yasu, and then we'll come back to him.
Okay.
Okay.
I would say it's a very rewarding service, and people should really look into it. It's very rewarding. Because it's very rewarding, as many people would tell you, ብዙ ፈተና አለው. There's a lot of trials and tribulations that come along with it. Church fathers say any service that doesn't have ፈተና የሌለበት አገልግሎት, you should kind of question it. Because if you're doing the right things, the devil should be coming after you, right? If he's not coming after you, then, you're probably not doing something right. And I assure you, if you get into this type of service, that makes a huge difference in people's lives. The one thing you can bet on is the devil will come after you with everything he's got, and he'll find a way to make you lose hope. He'll find a way to make you stop. And I talked to a lot of different people from America that serve the youth, and they'll tell you they go through a lot of struggles. And the fatana is not even from outside, right? A lot of time is internally, and that's the sad part. The same people that should be supporting you are the same people who make it difficult on you. So it's ብዙ ፈተና አለው. However, it's also very rewarding. And the one advice I would give people is to make sure the focus is on you. A lot of times, what people get into the habit of, we're gonna do a conference, we're gonna create a Bible study, we're gonna do all these things for others. So now what happens is, we become teachers, and we're trying to make other people students. Whereas what it should be is we're all students of the church, right? So the goal should be, we are gonna come together and learn everything we need to learn. If not everything, at least what we need to learn. In the process of learning our beautiful faith, in the process of learning about God, we're going to invite others so they can learn along with us. So as long as the focus is on you and personal spiritual growth as an individual, personal spiritual growth as a group of servants, and you always realize you are the student at hand, you're being served as well, then you will be successful. But if the focus is, well, I'm doing this for others, and you make yourself as a teacher or as somebody who doesn't need the service, then it becomes a problem. Then you start looking at numbers. Then you start looking at people, right? However, if you do a Bible study or one conference, and if 2 or 3 people come to that conference and gain something valuable from it, you should be happy. That's huge. Forget 2, 3 people, one person attending a conference or a Bible study and understanding their religion, understanding their faith. That's a huge blessing. So a lot of times, a lot of issues what we see as youth is, they're trying to serve others without serving themselves. And the goal as Christians in general should be, to focus on our spiritual growth in the process to help others as well.
Thank you, Diakon Yasu. Just another question on this follow-up. If maybe Diakon Gorgorios could join us as well. All 3 of you could answer this. What advices do you give for youth members or youth groups that are trying to start what you have been doing in your respective states? For example, Bezakulu Sunday School has more than 90 members. It's strong even with numbers of people and all of that. But there are states that basically have almost either no church or just one church without a lot of push or a lot of elders to push them, and they feel like the because of their lack of number or a lack of resources, even though they want to join one of the youth organizations or even start their own, they can't because of the lack of information or the lack of or organizing together. So what kind of advices do you have for those youth groups that wants to organize like you? Like when you started, were you as strong as you were today? Yes. Or Meron. Yeah.
I'm going to jump in just because Yasu touched on something I really wanted to talk about. And I'm going to take it from a female perspective. So when we talk about serving others, he said it perfectly. I don't want to get into that. It is about serving ourselves first, because we are not. You need to save yourself first. You need to have knowledge first. You need to have wisdom first. You need to be able to articulate what you have learned, not only by what you're speaking, but by the lifestyle that you are living. Right now, our lives are on social media, which is great. You want to share your life, you want to share your style, that's great. But don't live in two worlds. Try to live in one world. Be stable in one world. For all the females out there, understand that we have the greatest power that this church has installed upon us. We shape the next generation. As mothers, your number one responsibility is to shape your children. From that comes all the next generation deacons. We get our priests from that. We get our papasat from our house. So if I don't have the knowledge in order to pass it down to my kids, where are they going to get it from? So ask yourself that. As you're growing, take as much wisdom as you can. Even if it's not the Bible, read other books. Have friends that are older than you. Have friends that have been in faith longer than you. Have friends who are married. Ask them about how they establish their marriage. What is the difficulties of their marriage and their daily lives? How they raise their children. Talk to people. Learn from others. I think we're very shy in that, and it's very understandable. But when it comes to other things, and we're not. So find people that you can learn from. Find people you can become role models to. Be role models to the little ones, and we can empower each other. Back to what Diakon Ephraim said, in this day and age, with all the technology, we do not have a reason to say I do not have enough resource. The church has so much resource. Not only in script, not only typed version of or Sibkatoch or anything like that you're looking for, even mezmurs, they're typed in 400-page PDF, all online. If you need resources are available to you. Don't just cross your hand and wait for something to be given to you. Nobody's going to give it to you. Ask for it. If you see Bezapulu being a strong Sunday school and that's what you want to be, contact people who serve in that church and say, I need to know who did this. Where can I get this information? If you like the DC, there's a lot of examples. I just can't think right now, but there's a lot of examples. A lot of Sunday schools are very strong. Seattle has very strong, well-established Sunday schools. Ask for the resources. You do not have to start from ground zero. We need to start establishing ourselves from what is already built. We can build upon each other. Stop starting from scratch. I know there's a lot of states like South Carolina, Florida, like smaller states that don't have a lot of Ethiopian population, but you can contact others. Use their resource. Don't be afraid to reach out to people. That's all I want to say.
Well said, Miron. Dawa Gorgoros, do we have you back now?
Audio.
Is the mic working?
So. Can you hear me?
Okay, perfect. We could hear you.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. Do you know the answer, the question? We're discussing in terms of giving advice on those brothers and sisters or small organizations that wants to start off. What advices do you have for them? Like, especially those states that have very minimum amount of either one church or even no church. Maybe they're in college and they're a group of friends that want to do what you guys are doing in your respective states. So what advice do you give for those organizations or for those groups? Kids.
Yes, this is really essential because youth group doesn't necessarily have to be an organization. It could be a Bible study group. It could be a prayer group. It could be anything, especially when we are in college. When the college that I went to, maybe he might know, but it's CSU Pueblo, is all the way 2 hours away from Colorado. Denver,
Oh.
Colorado. It was pretty far away. We didn't have anybody. That was just me and a friend of mine that we used to go to church with, and we didn't have anybody to communicate with as far as church. We're 2 hours away from, just driving wise, and we didn't have a car at the time, so it was very difficult to engage in any type of spiritual activity. But so just coming together for a prayer group was really essential, and this is where the youth organization that we have, the UOTY, YOTC, and the Houston one, as well as Sunday School, needs to come in handy and support these people, help them with the Bible study, help them with their prayer days. Now, thankfully, we have programs almost every day, especially when it comes to UOTY. We have programs Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We have prayer days. We have with YOT every Sunday there is a class. With the Houston, there is monthly conferences that they can possibly attend. The Sunday School works tirelessly. They have so much resources within the NASU website. So we have so much resources, for us to keep up with. So don't just look at it as a means of an organization. It doesn't have to be a huge thing, but as far as if you're growing spiritually, you're doing the right thing. So we just have to support them in that manner. Don't look at what you're doing as a small thing. Whatever you're doing is not only helping your spiritual life, but it's helping others be saved as well. So that's what I have to say to that.
Yeah, I love that answer. Diakon Ephraim, do you have something to add to this? If you could share your experience with us as well.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, they've all said it well, and I don't want to take time from more other questions that are coming. But like they've said, it's not about the number, and Dago Gorgoro said you don't even have to be an organization in order to be able to indulge in the words of God. In His words, He said, "I will be with you if you are gathered together in My name." Whether you're one or two, I will be with you. So that's His word. So that's your organization there. So don't ever think that you have to be part of this huge organization in order to be able to start from where you are. And which is why with UOTY, even though this is in general, we're discussing with all the youth, one of the things that we've been trying to do with UOTY, and I believe other organizations are doing that as well, is trying to get to especially those that are not able to be to be able to go to Sunday church every single weekend because they're either at dorms. Well, now we're all quarantined at home and there's no dorms anymore. But in general speaking, we have websites, we have YouTube videos, daily sermons that are coming out, readings. And like Meron said, there's so many, even though as Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church, we have yet so much to do, which we will be talking a little bit about. We have yet a lot to do. There's a lot of resources out there. Especially our Coptic Orthodox sister churches our Coptic Orthodox Church are very good with these English resources that are most importantly, start from your friends and your dorms, just like Meron and Dagon Gorgorio said. It starts from your room, starts from your family, and then when your friends, all you need is that zeal inside of you. You don't need an organization and committee to start off your own organization. That's what I would say.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I hope that's a very useful conversation for those of you out there that are thinking about starting an organization within your own cities or even building on top of what's already available. But then if we can move on with a different kind of conversation about our Holy Synod and the church administration. If Meron, if you could answer this question for me and the rest of you could add on to it as well. What kind of support have you been given to your Sunday school or your organization by a church leadership that you want to highlight?
I really want to highlight our Sabakabue. I think, especially now, we have a very strong Sabakabue, and they have been able to provide a lot of support, a lot of ability to grow. And Minnesota is very unique in Saturdays, they teach Amharic classes in sections divided by kids' age. On Sunday, they teach English classes. So everything is in English. So the kids are able to get the best of both worlds, with both languages. And there's a lot of dedicated people who are willing and able to give their time, their energy, their effort, their heart. You all know how difficult it is to manage a group of kids in one room. So a lot of dedicated people who are willing and able to support the Sunday school and the kids organization within my church.
That's awesome. Diaco Gregorius?
There has been a huge indirect support. I say indirect support because directly or indirectly, we need any type of support that we can get from the mother synod, because we can't do anything without the mother synod. When it comes to our organization, thankfully, Abuna Zacharias was able to register it in their website and their diocese, and the mother synod was able to approve that, as well as Abuna Fanuel. And it's been an amazing support that we've been receiving from bishops who are part of the Holy Synod. Ever since we started this movement, ever since we started this organization, the likes of Abuna Zacharias, Abuna Fanuel, have been alongside us, helping us, telling us, guiding us, and being the shepherd that we want them to be. And there is nothing that we can ask of the Synod. More than that, the synod is the shepherd of the church. They are the shepherd of the congregation, and they've been shepherding us the right way. And not only that, I believe in the 2019 assembly, the youth in America was a matter of subject that was talked about in the big assembly, alongside all the archbishops that came together. That not only that, when the archdiocese came together here, all 9 of them, one of the topic of discussion was the youth organization. It shows how much support and how much concern that they have for the young generation. They understand what we are going through, the trials and tribulations that we are facing right now, and they are helping us and moral support, encouraging us. And there is nothing more we can ask for right now. It's been an amazing support. When we hosted the Denver conference 2 years ago, my beloved father, the lovely, honestly, Abuna Filipos flew from Ethiopia on their own expense and attended the conference. Not only did they attend the conference, they blessed us. Not only did they bless us, but they preached in English. Not only that, but they sang in English to encourage the movement. And it's just been an incredible. And everybody that I speak with, the likes of Abuna Abraham back, the bishop of Barda and its surroundings, Abuna Nathanael, the bishop of Wallagam, and they have nothing but support and love for organizations like UOTY and YOTC, and they appreciate everything that they do. And I feel like that's the voice of the whole synod. So we know that we have the backing of our fathers, and we're so grateful for that. And there's nothing more we want.
Very well said, Gorgorius. You want to go ahead? Do you have?
No, go for it.
Yeah, you touched very well, which was my question about the archdiocese. If we have a good relationship with archdiocese, but now I want to come like with you. You informed us, or you mentioned about Abuna Zacharias and Abuna Fanuel, what used to be the archdiocese of the time, during the unfortunate split. But now, thankfully, the Holy Synod is one. And after the unity, we've had 10 archdioceses added afterwards. So if you want to say a little bit on where we are at, and Diagon Yasu, you could jump in on this as well after Diagon Gorgorius, where we are at right now in terms of the new archdiocese, because we do see, there's still a lot of work to do with being able to, even though everyone, like Diagon Gorgorius said, is supporting us, even those that have never even stepped a foot into Ethiopia, which I will come to when I ask about the monthly prayer that we've had previously. The support is immense, but what we see is that support sometimes doesn't come in paper, and we've been facing some issues with that. So how are you able to address that in terms of your archdiocese in Houston and Gorgorius in your respective state and Meron as well? And if we could also talk about together on, I believe, even though Diagon Goros, it was you that had the honor of participating in that historical 1 month prayer during the starting of the pandemic in Ethiopia, and when there was over 20 plus languages that were that was used during the service and delivering the sermons, we were able to hear the English language part of it. For me, that meant something. What did that mean to you when you saw that in Ethiopia by the Holy Synod? When you saw that, what did that speak to you about the services that you do to here?
I said it's a packed of questions. I don't even know where to begin. As far as the
I'm
archdiocese that
sorry,
we
just
have,
with the new archdiocese and then the prayer. Let me just
okay. Yes, thank you. As far as the archdiocese that we have, I was an unfortunate split, but when they came together, thankfully, I was very much open-minded. The bishop that we had in Denver, Colorado, and its surroundings, they were very open-minded about the youth organization that we have, and they actually, in fact, fully supported us. We just had to, formally give them a letter and give them the bylaw, and then they were able to review that, and then they were able to bring us in under the wing. And then, in fact, they attended the next annual conference, and then, they encouraged us and blessed us as well. And I came here as well to Las Vegas, and Abuna Teofilos, an amazing, incredible, well-educated, an amazing father to everybody, and they gave me the same type of energy that I received everywhere else as well. If it wasn't for the the Corona season, we would have done a lot of work, and our archdiocese would have came together and would have had an amazing steps forward. Bringing in the youth back and working for the youth. And one thing that I always wanted is this, disproportionate prioritization of the youth, and that's something that they really wanted to do. But the season and the time was unfortunate, and we had to break off, and then we're in this pandemic struggling. But I think once the pandemic is over, the main target is going to be us, the young people, the young congregation, and I'm really excited to see what they have in store for us. I'm sure they've spoken about them multiple times in their archdiocese meetings in America. So I'm excited to see, what they have to bring, and for the work to be done. As far as the Ethiopian Orthodox Church and its prayers during the pandemic time, I was honestly, I didn't know what to feel at the time. It was just an incredible moment. It was something that I didn't believe was real until it was happening. I'm watching it happen, and I couldn't believe it was real. It was a surreal moment, not because it was me, but because this is what we've been craving for a very long time. And I thought, honestly, I was in tears, and I was so happy, not for myself, but for the youth, because now I see that my church is with me. Now I see that the church is with us. Now I see that my Holy Synod understands our struggle. The Holy Synod knows the importance of evangelizing the gospel all throughout the world. They understand there is a young generation in need and starving and thirsting the gospel, thirsting salvation. And it shows the initiative that they took to accommodate our need. And I'm so happy, and I'm so glad about that. It's a very proud moment for all of us as an English servants, for UOTY, YUTC. It was an incredible moment, to be honest. It was an unbelievable moment, and it shows how far we can go when we put our minds to it. So I'm really happy about that.
Very well said. That's exactly how I felt, that we are being listened to and that our service means a lot. And what really made me emotional again is, when we talk about the Holy Synod, we're talking about at least around one, I might be mistaken, but about 80 plus archbishops, and half of them have never even stepped foot in a world that speaks English, but they know that we're there. Like, that service for me meant like an endorsement that we hear you, we know you, and keep doing what you're doing, and actually inspiring us to that we haven't done enough. So that you said it very well, Diakon Gorgorios, and Diakon Yasu, also, if you want to add on this one.
I think it's great. Shout out to our Archbishop Abuna Saviros, who attended our Texas conference and blessed us and whatnot as well. I think a lot of times, people might get frustrated with, support or lack of support and whatnot, but I think it's important for people to realize, our church is experienced in a lot of great things, right? But some things we're fairly new to. like we're on our sixth patriarch, if I'm not mistaken, right? Just our church has such a long history, but we're on our sixth patriarch. With the consistent change and regimes and government back home, it's no longer the king supporting the church. So the church has to figure out a lot of administrative things, and the church is new to it. So with that being said, unfortunately, we're reacting to a lot of different things, and instead of proactively engaging it and setting up structures for it and whatnot. For example, youth should not have to create youth organizations, that tend to the youth. Something should be in place that we can all just fall in place to. But that's why I'm saying, as far as understanding that, our church is new to some things, and a lot of things will get better, especially now that, thank God, there's unity, right? So with unity, there's going to be a slow progress and being more organized and being more structured. And as time goes by, with unity and all these different groups and people and scholars coming together, there'll be a lot more resources and a lot more support to different Sunday schools, the different churches and the different organizations, and so forth.
Yeah. And if Meron, if you could add on to this as well, and also if you could tell us a little bit about how we could transition the youth into the Sunday school that we have.
Okay. I believe my brothers answered it great, and they have a little bit more direct experience with that. So, in regards to transitioning from youth to Sunday school, what I want to say is, so the youth, look at the youth minister as your training wheel, right? So you're going to get on the training wheel. It's going to get you through high school. And by then you're going to have so much knowledge. You're going to have understanding of your faith. And then you're going to be ready to serve. That's the way I see it. As soon as you're done with college, by the time you're in college, you should have a great understanding of your religion and your faith. I want to say that, sorry, I lost my train of thought. You guys are making me nervous. So much experience. Okay, what I wanted to say is, understand that there is a role for you to play in the church. The church is so vast. We need so many different things, and we're just growing. We're just starting. So I want you to know that it's not going to be an invitation. It might be something that you're starting off fresh. You're the ones who are going to be on ground zero. You might be the ones starting off, that a nonprofit organization that we need to have, just like Feed My Starving Children. We don't need to branch out and use other people's resources. We can have our own, right? We need to be able to start programs that make the community and our what do I want to say? Yeah. But I want to, so that we can all participate together, so that can bring people together. So service is not only just about talking about the Bible, it's also
living,
applying it to our daily lives. We need to be able to live the Word of God after we have a knowledge of the Word of God. So think of it in a way, once you're transitioning, there is a place for you in the church. We might be starting off from ground zero, but there is a church for you. There is a need for you. We need politicians. We need smart people, smart lawyers. We need everything you can think of. The church has a need for you. So think of it that way. That's what I wanted to just pinpoint before we get off the topic.
Thank you, Meron. And we will have a lot more conversations on the gaps between Sunday school and the youth, and the misunderstandings between them, and so forth. We only have about 15 minutes left for this program, but we will definitely come back and talk a lot about those differences between the Sunday school and youth in America and abroad. Brothers and sisters, thank you so much for all of you that have been joining us throughout this program. Please don't forget to keep subscribing and sharing. This is how you support back, and this is how you are able to ignite and share our conversation so it could reach to as many youth as possible. We are not only trying to have 2 hours of a conversation within each other, or maybe just for another 100 or 120 people that might reach, but we want everyone to be able to be part of this conversation. We want everybody to be able to understand our conversation, and the reason that we're having these conversations is so we could grow and fix the issues and grow within, be able to flourish the youth ministry or the youth movement that we see in Ethiopia, flourish it as well here in the United States. So we want you to do your part by subscribing, liking, and sharing this conversation with everyone. Don't forget that. We're going to play one mazmur by our brother Diakon Adam. Will sing one mazmur for us, and we'll come back.
Peace for Ethiopia, peace for our country. Peace for Ethiopia, peace for our country. Let it be, let it be, let it be the will of our Lord. Let it be. Let it be the will of our Lord. Salam leIthiopia, salam ለሀገራችን. Salam leIthiopia, salam ለሀገራችን. ይላክልን 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 ቸሩ አምላካችን. ይላክልን 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 ቸሩ አምላካችን. Peace for Ethiopia, peace for our country. Peace for Ethiopia, peace for our country. Let it be, let it be, let it be the will of our Lord. Let it be, let it be, let it be the will of our Lord. May God accept our hymns and our prayers.
Welcome back. We're at the end of our program, so we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. But before we do that, we want to hear from our guests. What does being in an Ethiopian Orthodox Church mean to you, Diakon Gregorios? And then the rest of you could answer that as well.
I think to be an Ethiopian Orthodox, the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo means a way of salvation for me. It is my way to my kingdom. It's the only way that I know. Our Lord and our God Jesus Christ said, He is the way, the truth, and the life. And there's one path that we must take. There is one faith and one baptism. And this is the faith that I know. This is the truth that I know. Not just because I was born to it, but because I was able to indulge in the teachings, in the mysteries, in the ceremonies, in the hymns, in the warabs, in the liturgy, and the scriptures, and the commentaries, and everything that the church that church has to offer, and the dugwa, soma dugwa, and the kene, and the akwakwa, but everything. It just shows how beautiful and how rich this faith is. It's home. It's my home. It's who I am. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church is me. I am the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. It's my way to my salvation. That's what it means to me.
And Diakon Ephraim, what does being in the Ethiopian Orthodox Church mean to you?
Being in the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church for me means liberation, and in terms of not only, and we don't mean just because we're Ethiopian, we're any different than other people of Christ or Christians, but adding that flavor of Ethiopianism or Ethiopiawinet, the ability, because of my fathers, not from anything that I've done, but because of what my fathers and mothers have done in the past, I am able to still indulge the very church of Christ that have not been mixed or altered or mixed with other spirits that is not from the church. So for me, being part of the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church means liberation and also like purity, where the pure words of God have been inherited to me without any mixture of other substance from this world. I think did you say you didn't hear the question?
Yeah, I was having a problem hearing Hewitt. I can hear you, but
okay. The question she asked is, what does it mean to be an Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church fellow to you? What does it mean to be an Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church member?
To make a long story short, I think you guys said the core values, but understanding the true teachings of Christ. A lot of times, the name Ethiopian, starts off with being Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church, right? And for me, the two are kind of related one another, and it's probably what bothers some people nowadays, right? But for me, being Ethiopian is being Orthodox Tewahedo. Being Orthodox Tewahedo is being an Ethiopian. Everything I'm proud to be of, being an Ethiopian, I got from the Orthodox Tewahedo Church, from my language and my identity, being proud, fighting for equality, religious freedom. All of these things that make me proud of being an Ethiopian, I got from the church. So for me, they're one and the other.
That's beautiful. Mayron, what does being a member of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church mean to you?
It's very hard to follow after all that, but I'll say it beautifully. What I want to say is, for me, it means life. It's truly life. Whatever I'm going through, sadness, happiness, anything that I'm feeling, every time I make a mistake, find something that's gonna lift me up. It's my strength. It's everything that I am. It's because of this church. I don't know. I can't truly separate my identity and my church life sometimes, and it's like a gray area. But and that's because of the people that are around me. There are so many great people to look up to and who support you and love you. Don't look at the negative people, those who pull you down. If you hear something, pretend like you didn't hear. Walk away, and then you'll hear something positive in the next step. So don't worry about it. It has all the good and the bad, but it's beautiful. Most importantly, it just lifts up my soul and takes me to the next level. So, and I cannot feel like that in anywhere or in anything that I do. So it's unique, it's precious, and I wish it's not local to us, to be honest. I love that I'm Ethiopian and I'm proud of it, but I want the Orthodox Tewahedo Church to be a global phenomenon. I want it to take it from being so local to the world. I want Lalibela to be known as much as the Vatican is known. And I hope one day that's our vision, and I hope that everybody on this earth will know where Lalibela is, and I can stop answering, hey, where's Ethiopia? So, that's
Hewitt, you want to answer that as well before we close? We have about 3 minutes.
Okay. For me, the Ethiopian Orthodox Church is an accident I found that has become a home for me, that has become a way of salvation, that has become a way of looking within myself and see God and find the imperfection that I have, and know that even with all that, I'm forgiving. Even with all the things that I criticize myself for, even with all the things that I have failed, being able to be accepted and being able to worship a God that is so faithful, that is so understanding and loving, and always ready to listen and a rock for me. So being in Ethiopian Orthodox Church for me is being able to go to Kadase and know that I'm worshiping a God that my parents, my grandparents, and anyone I know for as long as I know has been able to worship and depend on. So that's what the Ethiopian Orthodox Church means for me.
Thank you so much. Well said, Hewitt, and everyone that have joined us today, Brother Diakon Gorgorios, Brother Diakon Iyasu, Sister Meron. Thank you so much for joining us today, and Sister Hewitt. It's been great again for yet another edition or program with Viewers Digest and Adebabai Media. Brothers and sisters, everyone that have been following us again, thank you so much, and please keep subscribing and sharing this conversation. Basically, the core conversation or message that Adebabai Media and Viewers Digest have been indulging with you and conversating with you every week is the importance of getting the youth involved in their first and foremost involved in their faith and involved in the issues that is going on and surrounding them. When we started this conversation, I said about 70 plus years ago when our fathers started the movement of Sunday school, one of the reasons was the lack of the youth being uneducated biblically because of the division that happened between secular school and church school. Today, we have millions of reasons of why we should keep our youth part of the Sunday school, why we should bring or conversate or teach our youth starting from home. There's a lot of great things, great messages that have been adhered with us today in this 2 hours conversation. You could go back and check it and conversate it. I can't summarize everything, but the core important thing we want you to take out of this is for parents and the youth, be involved, be part of the conversation. There's so many reasons. Again, I said our fathers have maybe had one or two reasons to start this movement, but we have billions of reasons. Today, like Diakon Gorgoro said, the world is against us. Everything we hear, the sin has become part of not only lifestyle, but legal in this world. So more than ever, we should come back together, listen to the words of God, grow together in the words of God, be part of Sunday school, be part of any youth organizations you see, and be involved and help them. አማርኛ ለሚናገሩ ወዳጆቻችን ልጆቻችሁን አሁንም በየሳምንቱ በዚህ ሰዓት ከኛ ጋር እንዲቆዩ ስላደረጋችሁ እናመሰግናለን። አሁንም አደባባይ ሚዲያንና ቪውርስ ዳይጀስትን በመርዳት ሼር ሰብስክራይብ በማድረግ እንዲሁም ከኛ ጋር ውይይታችንን አብረን ለማድረግ የናንተም ሐሳብ ስለሚያስፈልገን ሐሳቦቻችሁን እንዳውጅ ያደረግን ሐሳቦቻችሁን እየሰጣችሁ አብረን እንድናድግ ይሁን። ዋናው ዓላማችን ይሄንን ትውልድ አሁን ወጣቱ የሚባለው ትውልድ ሂውጅ ኢፌክት የሚያመጣበት ወይም ደግሞ ታሪክ የሚሰራበት ዘመን ላይ ስለሆነ ያለነው አብረን ይችን የምንወዳትን ሀገር የምንወዳትን ኢትዮጵያ ኦርቶዶክስ ተዋሕዶ ቤተክርስቲያንን የምናሳድግበት በቤተክርስቲያን አንፃር ቤተክርስቲያን እኛ የምታሳድገን እንጂ እኛ የምናሳድጋት አይደለንም። ግን ያ አባቶቻችን የሰጡንን በረከት አባቶቻችን ያደሉን የሰጡንን ርትዕት ሃይማኖት ለሚቀጥለው ትውልድ የምናስተላልፍበት ሰዓት ደርሶ ሳለ እኛ ግን ገና ስራ ብዙ ስላልሰራን ይሄንን ውይይት ከልጆቻችሁ ጋር በማድረግ ልጆቻችሁን በሰንበት ትምህርት ቤት በወጣቶች አገልግሎት እንዲሳተፉ ከልጅነታቸው በማድረግ ይሄንን ዓላማ እንድትተባበሩ በትህትና እንጠይቃለን። Again, everyone that have joined us, thank you so much. Until next week, have a great night.
Actually, before we finish, I was wondering if we could give our guests about 30 seconds each to give us their last thoughts and comments. And I'll go ahead and start with my sister Meron.
I just wanted to say thank you for having me as a guest. It's been an honor. I've learned a lot from my brothers as always. I just want to say to everybody out there, don't give up, stay positive. And light, there's no way to turn. Light will always prevail darkness, right? So keep the light.
Yeah, I love that. Diakon Iyasu?
I can't hear what, but I'm assuming she called me.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Adababa Media, Diakon Ephraim Hiwat, for having us. Thank you, Adababa Media, for being the voice of the church. And most importantly, thank you for realizing that the youth and English speakers are part of the church and that they deserve a voice, and organizing this program to continue. I challenge all of my brothers and sisters, all of leaders, if you consider yourself a leader, there's a phrase that says, you're not a true leader until you made another person a leader. So if you're a leader within the church, please cater to the youth and ensure that more leaders are coming around within our church. Thank you for having me.
Of course. And Diakon Gorgorios?
Thank you so much again. Everybody mentioned it. Dababa Media, as well as Diakon Ephraim and my sister Hiwat, for having us. One last message that I want to send out, since this is a good platform to do it so. I want to ask our churches, our administration, our archbishops, and the Holy Synod to think about bridging the gap between the youth and the big administration, having the young people involved, having a representative, having a voice within the assembly of the Holy Synod, even to help to bridge the gap, and to have, so that the youth can have a voice, as well as taking the next step as far as young servants. We have a lot of deacons being ordained right now, but what is the next step for these young folks? What is the next service? Ordaining them priests and all that good stuff. They need to serve the church. And lastly, the very last message that I want to pass on is that we need to start thinking about having a temeret within America and all the archdioceses, at least 4 or 5 of them, so that we can have American-born marigetas, American-born bishops, American-born commentaries, Turguame teachers, and marigetas, and all these things. So this needs to be the next step. So we have a lot of work to do. Hopefully, this could be a beginning or a start of a great thing to work with them. So thank you for having us and listening to us.
Of course. እና እኛም በአደባባይ ፋሚሊ ስም በጣም እናመሰግናለን because you guys accepted our invitation and came to have this amazing conversation with us. And all of you that have been following our conversation, I want to iterate what my co-host Diakon Ephraim said. We really appreciate your time, and also help us share these links and these conversations as we have them. And we'll definitely come back with a different conversation next week. And until we see you, have a blessed week, and have a wonderful time.